Hello, sir. There was some technical issue on our side, sir. From our internet connectivity, just. Sir, you are muted, sir. Hello, sir. Sir, you are muted.
Screen is visible, sir?
No, sir. Please share it, sir. I think that there is some problem with our internet problem, sir. Here, so that's why it got cut. Please reshare your screen again, sir.
Okay, sir.
What do you
Is it visible, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please proceed, sir. It's visible, sir. You can go for presentation. Sir.
Okay, sir.
Thank you, sir.
So we aim to develop materials for lithium battery application because of a smaller size and a lighter weight. So what are the advantages of lithium battery? Basically, it is having for high energy density and greater power in smaller packages and higher voltage. A strong current can allows to it power complex in mechanical devices and a long shelf life comparatively for nickel metal hydride and nickel cadmium batteries, which is a 10 to 20%, which is higher than that one. So here first we will go for what are the lithium based, what are the applications are there, what are the products are there, just we will see for first. So lithium based products are first lithium carbonate, which is majorly using in the applications of car, lithium batteries, glass ceramics, cement and aluminium, and lithium hydroxide material, which is using in a key application in lithium batteries, grease, carbon dioxide absorption and mining application, and lithium metal based compound is majorly using in lithium battery, pharmaceutical and aluminum alloys, and butyl lithium is also used in the elastomer, pharmaceutical, agrochemicals, and lithium special compounds which is used in electronic materials, pharmaceutical and agrochemicals. So here we are seeing for lithium batteries, first it is started by T. Nagura and K. Tojawa. The concept of lithium battery, this name is invented by T. Nagara and K. Tojawa. The concept of lithium battery was first introduced by Ashai Kosi Company Limited, and lithium batteries was first proposed by M.S. Wittigeman, which he is the Nobel author for Nobel author 2019 he got the Nobel Prize. He was invented in 1970, used as a titanium sulfate as a cathode and lithium metal as the anode. Lithium ion secondary batteries, which is useful for, has been most successful in a recent development of battery because of lithium is the lightest metal and has the highest standard potential, which is already we have compared with other metals, which is showing for highest potential. That is why we are choosing for lithium. And lithium is having the highest theoretical capacity comparatively for zinc and lead. That is why lithium is the most important material, and these invented in Sony in 1991. Already we have discussed. So about this one, introduction about lithium-ion battery, which is a rechargeable battery in which lithium ions travels from the positive electrode to negative electrode and the opposite while charging. We can further understand if we get to know about the construction of a lithium-ion battery as explained in the next slide. So here the majorly the lithium-ion battery, which is consisting of majorly 4 components. One is cathode, second one is anode, third one is separator, and fourth one is electrolyte. Let us look them in detail. Here, cathode is which is as a source of lithium ions, which determine the capacity and the average voltage of the battery. And second one is the anode, which stores and releases the lithium ions from the cathode and allowing the current through the external circuit. And third one is the separator, which prevents the contact between the cathode and anode. And fourth one is the electrolyte, which is the medium which helps to momentum of ions through the cathode to the anode. So here the construction, we are going in detail. What is the role of cathode? Cathode, we know that lithium-ion batteries produce electricity through chemical and the source of lithium is the cathode, which is the positive electrode. Means cathode and anode, we can also call it as a, here cathode we are calling as a positive electrode, anode we are calling as a negative electrode. So we can call it as a cathode and anode, we can call it as a electrode. As lithium, while in the case of cathode, lithium itself is an unstable element. We usually lithium oxide for cathode we are using. Cathode also play an important role in displaying the characteristics of the battery, as the battery voltage can be determined through the cathode material. While in the case of anode material, which is a negative electrode, which is made up of the carbon based compound and graphite, in charging state, lithium ions are stored in the anode instead of the cathode. When the discharge state starts, the lithium ions flow back from the anode to the cathode. Here, separator acts as a barrier between the anode and cathode and does not allow the direct flow of electron. It has a porous film which carefully lets lithium ions to pass through during charging and discharging states. While in the case of electrolyte, usually composed of salts and organic liquids, usually we will use for liquid electrolytes majorly. The majority of the lithium ions from the cathode to anode facilitated by the electrolyte. It also prevents the flow of electron as it would stop the production of electricity and will also turn out the battery safety concern. So now let us get on the working process. So here we can see for here which is a cathode and here it is the anode, and here anode which is we are using as a graphite and cathode we are using as a lithium metal oxide, and lithium ions we are using as a lithium hexafluorophosphate we are using as a electrolyte. So we know that traditional batteries were we know that the traditional batteries work through galvanic action, but lithium-ion batteries work differently. They use a process called intercalation mechanism. Though this process, lithium ions can be injected in the crystalline lattice and can be injected in the crystalline lattice host electrode without changing the crystal structure. So during charging, what it will happen? During charging, lithium ions in positive electrode or the cathode are ionized and moved to the negatively charged anode. As shown in the diagram, because here what is happening in charging, this is the negative, this is the positive. Upon charging, lithium ions will move from released by the cathode and intercalated at the anode material. During discharging, when the cell discharged, lithium ions are extracted by the cathode and inserted into the anode. Therefore, now we know that this process is entirely reversible and lithium ions can flow from the cathode to the anode and vice versa. Due to this reason, lithium ion batteries are also sometimes referred as a swing cells. So this is the chemical reaction we are seeing here below. And what are the major advantages of lithium ion batteries? First one, we can see for a big advantages for lithium ion batteries is to produce higher voltages compared to other batteries. And second one is, which is less weight compared to other batteries. And third one is improved the safety, have more resistance to overcharging, because here it is not having any memory effect, while in the case of other batteries which is having for memory effect. So due to that, if you are charging for 2 hours, so afterwards, if it is a memory, means whatever the capacity up to which extent, suppose you are having the battery capacity is 100 milliampere per hour. Suppose you are charged up to 60 milliamperes and afterwards you are switched off, means it is in a discharge mode. So afterwards again you are charging, then it will show only 60 milliamperes only it will charge. Even your battery is having for capacity of 100 milliamperes, but due to the capacity, because the battery is having the memory loss, due to that it will charge only up to 60 milliampere, while in the case of nickel cadmium batteries, nickel metal hydride batteries, while in the case of lithium ion batteries, which is not having any memory effect. And fourth one is it can lithium ion batteries fast charging and discharge rates. The major disadvantages of lithium ion batteries, a major drawback is their cost, as they usually 40% more costly to manufacture than nickel cadmium cells. And second major drawback is batteries also face the problem aging, and that's not only dependent
Hello, sir. Hello, sir. Sir. Hello. So actually, you are not connected to mic, sir.
Is it audible now?
Ah, yes,
Okay.
sir. It is audible, sir. So you can share the screen, sir. Sir, if you are facing any difficulties, so you can switch off your video and you can present, sir.
Yeah. Now is it visible?
Ah, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Slide is visible, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
So the major advantages of lithium-ion batteries already we have discussed, and the disadvantages are majorly it is major drawback is cost and abundant. It is not more abundant for any country than USA and African countries. And second one, that is why in India still we are using a lead acid batteries comparatively for other batteries. But now the cost means we should see for what are the possibilities for, because here advantage for lithium batteries is a lightweight. So most, hello,
Sir?
is that able?
Ah, yes, sir. It is audible, sir. You can.
Oh, and the major disadvantage is not related to other protection. So here major drawback is overcharging due to that, because no memory loss due to that we are charging for again and again, but that is the, and they are not available in all standards. Hello,
Hello, sir.
is it screen is visible, sir?
Yes, sir. A screen is visible, sir. So you can share your presentation, sir.
Is it visible, sir?
Yes, sir. You have started screen sharing. So
Yeah.
still it is not reflected, sir. So 1 minute, sir. Actually, there is a problem with. So there is a problem with the internet, sir. Actually, it has started screen sharing,
Nice.
but it is not visible. Yes, sir. Your side, sir. Hello, sir. Hello. Hello, sir. Sir, you are muted. So, participants, there was some issues in the internet. So actually, Sarah joined.
Vinod sir,
Hi, sir.
recording is going on.
Hi, sir. It is going. Okay,
issue.
sir. Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Hello, sir. It is audible.
Yes, sir. It is audible. Sir.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Lithium batteries major application, sir. And it is a screen sharing is a.
Yes, sir. Please go for presentation mode, sir.
Okay, sir. Okay. Thank you. The major applications of lithium batteries are because of due to the lightweight, which is more useful for consumer portable electronic devices like mobiles, cameras, and computers and laptops, which is more useful for major applications. One second. Yeah. Another advantage is being lightweight is that they can be used in aerospace application, which is majorly nowadays USA they are concentrating to project for the lightweight batteries to space travel point of view. It is a heavyweight means it is a problem. So they are looking for lightweight material. Already they are using most of the aerospace application they are using. And also now emerging topic for lithium battery is the electrical vehicles and hybrid electrical vehicles application point of view. It is major application even because of green sustainable environmental point of view. We are going for greenhouse revolution. So the major application also which is useful for solar and wind power storage also demand the use of lithium battery, and which is also we are using as a artificial pacemaker for cardiac application point of view and other medical implantable devices. And lithium batteries can be used in power tools like cordless drills and garden equipments point of view. And these are the major application we are lithium batteries point of view it is using. And Tesla Motors, they are trying to invent the American automotive company which designs and manufacture and sells electrical vehicles that operate only in lithium batteries, on lithium batteries. The CEO of Tesla Motors, Elon Musk, once stated that it is absolutely true that fundamental enabling technology for electric cars is lithium ion as a cell chemistry technology. In the absence of that, I do not think it is possible to make an electric car that is competitive with gasoline car. So that is why majority of the batteries, whatever the electrical vehicles, mostly people are looking for lithium batteries because of lightweight. Otherwise, electrical vehicle point of view, majorly lightweight is the major issue. And most of the lithium batteries, sometimes it will catches fire. So that safety measurements also people are looking. So that one, why it is firing. So first battery management we should know. So lithium batteries have been in news recently with reports like Samsung phone unexpectedly catching fire. Here we examine how the batteries work and what can make them ignite. Because mostly whatever the electrolyte we are using, dimethyl carbonate, electrolyte if it is drying, due to that it will catches fire. Due to that, so whatever the cathode to the electrons, which is easily short circuit is happening, due to that it is catching the fire. So why lithium ion batteries are catching fire? So we will see for detailing. Lithium ion cells produce lots of heat during operation. So whatever the cells we are taking, that one it is generating the more heat. Even we can see for our mobiles while we are keeping for charging, it is dissipating the heat. And high temperature will decay the cell performance. So if it is going for high temperatures places we are charging, means it will decay the performance of the battery. So that is why battery management system is used to manage the temperature, voltage protection, cell health cell health monitoring of huge number of cells. And glycol based cooling technology is used for Tesla battery pack. So now whatever the battery management system point of view, whatever the heat it is generating, so that heating to reduce point of view, glycol based compounds are using to cool the battery package. So battery management system adjusts the glycol flow rate to maintain the optimum of battery temperature. So the What are the thermal runaway problem? Means why it is catching fire? Because of evaporating the electrolyte. One is the major issue. And pressure means cool countries and hot countries point of view, pressure variation will be there and temperature variation will be there, and melting of a separator also a problem. Due to that, oxygen also it is contaminating. Due to that, it is short circuit is happening. Due to that, it is happening for more heat and it is catching the fire. Causes of lithium-ion batteries failure. First, over voltage. Plating of lithium metal on the anode can causes internal short. And second one, rapid charging at low temperature or uncontrolled charging current. Metal on the anode under voltage, a cell that is upon recharge, which is we can use as a copper plating. Cell manufacturing defects, which is a contamination causing either internal short or unwanted reaction that degrade the capacity of the lithium. Preventing battery failure. So first we are how we can prevent the battery failures. One is cell quality is majorly important. How we can improve the cell quality? Using cells produced in an automated and clean facility. This will ensure that cells will perform safety and for as long as advertised. Using cells for supplier will increase the risk of battery failure. And package design, which is a good heat transfer properties, uniform distribution of current at high power. So majorly we are looking for pack design is very, very important to reduce the heat properties and uniform distribution of current throughout. Even high power we are supplying also, it should heat should transfer for uniformly. And battery management system is the major one. Any lithium-ion battery pack must have battery management system should be included. This system is crucial in protecting the battery, so it will last as long as advertised and operate safely for many years, because battery management system which is having for even the temperature is rising to cool down and pressure variations is there, that one also it will manage. So battery failures which will manage majorly package design and cell quality, means what kind of materials we are using and how we are supplier who is supplying without a risk of the battery, and package design and battery management system is the major one. Importance of a battery management system, just we will see for what is the necessity of battery management system. Is necessary to ensure the safe operation of lithium-ion pack. The battery management system also monitors cell voltages, current and temperatures to make sure they are operating a safe range or not. In fault condition, battery management system will shut the pack down for safety. Without the battery management system, the lifespan of the pack can be shorter than expected. So that is why battery management system is a major one. What are the features should present on a battery management system? First one is over or under voltage protection, and second one is the high current protection to avoid the short circuit, and high temperature protection to cool down point of view we are using for a glycol solution. And fourth one is the low temperature charging protection. And fifth one is the cell balancing, ensures that the cells in series remains at the same as the start of charging system. And here we have discussed about battery, which is majorly consisting of three components. One is cathode, another one is electrolyte, and another one is the anode. So first we will discuss what are the major requirement of lithium-ion batteries point of view. So we will cross check for each and every system point of view, what are the major things it is required. So first one is electrolytes, which is the role of, what is the role of electrolyte? Electrolyte, which it should have ion conductor between cathode and anode, and it is a lithium salt dissolved in organic solvents. And solid electrolyte, if in the case of organic electrolyte means this one we will use. Suppose in case of solid electrolyte also possible if the ion conductivity is high at operating temperature. And major requirements of electrolytes are inert atmosphere and high ionic conductivity and low viscosity and low melting point and appropriate concentration of lithium salt. And fifth one is majorly it should have major requirement is the chemical stability and thermal stability, and also low cost and environmental friendly, and it should have non-toxic materials. Commercially we are using for lithium ion batteries point of view, majorly we are using for lithium hexafluorophosphate in carbonate solvent we are using as a commercial electrolyte at present. While in the case of anode material requirements are large capability of lithium absorption and high efficiency of charge discharge and excellent cyclability and low reactivity against electrolyte and fast reaction rate. And another requirement is low cost and environmental friendly and non-toxic. Environmental friendly and non-toxic is the majority. Any particular application we will look for first criteria is it is environmental friendly and it should be non-toxic and it should be a low cost material. That kind of materials need to develop for any particular application. And existing problems in anode materials are lithium anode exhibit dendrite growth. It leads to catches fire. The picture of the dendrite growth at the lithium surface was obtained directly from in situ scanning electron microscopy. Measurements. Graphite and carbon anodes exhibit irreversible capacity loss. Lead oxide and tin oxide metals exhibit high volume expansion. It may cause explosion of battery. Cathode materials. The major requirement are one facet of the battery research in which there have been many interesting discoveries in the area of cathode. What are the major requirements of cathode point of view? So cathode is the electrode of an electrochemical cell at which reduction reactions occur. The common cathode materials at present we are using as a transition metal oxide, which is lithium cobalt oxide, lithium manganese oxide, lithium nickel oxide, lithium iron phosphate, lithium metal borates, and lithium iron silicates are the majorly using the cathode materials. And high desired characteristics of cathode materials are it should have high discharge voltage and high energy capacity and long cyclic life, high power density and a lightweight, low self-discharge, absence of environmentally hazardous elements it should avoid. And existing problems in cathode materials are cathode materials like lithium nickel cobalt oxide and lithium cobalt oxide, etc., will have the low energy density, low thermal stability, and low structural stability. And exothermic oxidation with electrolyte, it may catches the fire. Parameters affecting the cathode behavior. Majorly, it is due to the method of the preparation and particle size, morphology, and oxygen deficiency, and the temperature. These are the major parameters which is affecting the cathode behavior. and remedies to overcome the problems existing in the electrode materials. Like nano-sized electrode materials can minimize the above mentioned problems, and also mesoporous electrode materials can also minimize the high volume expansion. So before going this, so we are talking about nano-sized materials, nano-sized. What is meant by first? We will see for what is nanotechnology. So nanotechnology can be defined as a design, synthesis, and applications of materials and devices whose size and shape have been engineered at the nanoscale. It exploits it is having the major physical, chemical, electrical, and mechanical properties that is emerging when matter is structured at the nanoscale. While in the case of microscale, physical, chemical, and electrical and mechanical properties remains the same for any material. If you are going for nanoscale, the physical, chemical, electrical, and mechanical properties based on the what is the particle size of what is the which range of scale it is falling the nanoscale. Suppose if it is 100 nanometers, which is having the different properties, while in the case of 50 nanometers, it will differ the physical, chemical, electrical, and mechanical properties of the same material if you are taken for 100 nanoscale and 50 nanoscale. Both are differing the physical, chemical, electrical, and mechanical properties. So that is the playing the role of nano technology, which is majorly, it is changing the revolution for any particular material, because of if it is a micrometer scale means it is having for less range of application, while in the case of nanomaterial scale, which is having huge application, and it is changing the tremendous properties. What is meant by nanomaterials? Nanomaterials are the materials have structural component smaller than 1 micrometer in at least one dimension, while atomic and molecular building blocks approximately 0.2 nanometers of matter are considered as a nanomaterials. Examples as bulk crystals with a lattice spacing of nanometers, but macroscopic dimensions overall are commonly excluded. What is meant by nanoparticles? Nanoparticles are the particles with at least one dimension smaller than 1 micron and potentially as small as atomic and molecular length scales. And nanoparticles have amorphous and crystalline form, and their surfaces can act as a carriers for liquid droplets or gases. So here it is showing for different type of micro range scale, and here it is showing for nanoscale range how much it is showing. So bacteria which is in the range of 1 micrometer, and a virus which is falling in the range of 10 to 150 nanometer, and combustion of and if you are taking for neuron which is having for 200 micrometer range, and hair which is 60 micrometer range, and blood cells which is falling under the 7 micrometer and 10 nanometers for DNA helix diameter, and carbon 60 which is falling under the 1 nanometers. So just we will see for what is this. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Is it visible, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please go to.
Yeah, sorry for the disturbance.
Yes, sir, it's clear. Sir.
Okay. Yeah. Now nanoparticles are how many types it is classified? That one we are going to see for classification. Classified based on what are the parameters we are taking for nanoparticle classification point of view. One is a dimension, either it is a one-dimensional, two-dimensional, zero-dimensional, or three-dimensional. And based on the morphology, either it is a spherical morphology or nanoparticle spherical and cube morphology and a flavor type of morphology, kind of morphology based on that also nanoparticle classified, and composition, which type of composition we are using and what kind of uniformity it is maintaining, and agglomeration, it is a non-agglomerated or agglomerated, which kind of agglomeration it is maintaining throughout the material, it is maintaining the same agglomeration or non-agglomeration. That one we are going to see. And a dimensionality point of view, it is classified into three types. Majorly we are talking about one dimensional, two dimensional, three dimensional, and another one is a zero dimensional, it is there. So we will go for first what is meant by one dimensional nanomaterials. One dimensional nanomaterials with one dimension in the nanometer scale are typically thin films or surface coating, include the computer chips and the anti-reflection and hard coatings point of view. It is majorly useful, and thin films have been developed and used with the decades in various fields such as electronics, chemistry, and engineering application. And two-dimensional nanomaterials have the dimensions in the nanometer scale. This included two-dimensional nanostructured films with nanostructure finely attached to a substrate or nanopore filters used for small particle separation and filtration. Free particles with a large aspect ratio with dimensions in the nanoscale range are also considered as a two-dimensional nanomaterials. And we can see for three-dimensional nanomaterials, which is in a nanoscaled in all three dimensions, are considered as a three-dimensional nanomaterials. This includes thin films deposited under conditions that generate atomic scale porosity, colloids, and free nanoparticles with various morphologies. So what is a nanoparticle morphology? Morphological characteristics to be taken into account, either it is a flatness or sphericity, and these things I will discuss in later slides. A general classification between the high to low aspect ratio of particles, high aspect ratio of nanoparticles includes nanotubes and nanowires with various shapes and such as helices, zigzags, and belts, or perhaps nanowires with a diameter that varies with length. Small aspect morphologies includes spherical, oval, cubic, prism, helical, and pillar type morphologies, which is a collection of many particles exist as a powder suspensions or colloids. Means this many types of different morphologies which is available for nanoparticle range. So nanoparticle composition is a single constituent material or be a composite of several materials. The nanoparticles found in nature are often agglomerates of materials with various composition, which is we will discuss in slides. Nanoparticle uniformity and agglomeration based on their chemistry, means what kind of material you are using, what are the precursor you are taking. Based on that nanoparticle uniformity will differ, and correspondingly the electric and magnetic properties will change, and dispersed aerosols as a suspensions and colloids in a agglomerated state. Any agglomerated nanoparticles we are taking may behave as a large particle, or depending on the size of the agglomerate, which is maintaining throughout the material or not. First, we need to see that one. So that one I will show as a examples in later slides. So what are the sources of nanomaterials? So we are talking about nanomaterials which is having for a different application. So what are the different types of nanomaterials which is available? One is engineered materials. So whatever we are preparing the materials which is fall under the category of engineered materials. So incidental, another one, and natural, which is a naturally it is occurring. So that one we will discuss in later slides. So engineered nanomaterials is nothing but which is deliberately engineered and manufactured by humans to have certain required properties. Means what is our application? Based on that, we want particular application point of view. We are taking the property. Based on that, we are deciding which kind of material we want for particular application. So legacy is having for engineered nanomaterials are those that were in commercial production prior to the development of nanotechnology as an incremental advancement over other collider or particulate materials. They include carbon black and titanium dioxide nanoparticles. Another one is a incidental source. So nanomaterials is maybe incidentally produced as a byproduct of mechanical or industrial process, and sources of incidental nanoparticles include vehicle engine exhausts and welding fumes, combustion process from domestic solid fuels, heating and cooking. Suppose if you are taking for lamp, so that lamp over that, just if you are keeping for aluminum foil, so you will get for carbon black. So that kind of things are incidental source. It will fall under the incidental source. So incidental atmospheric nanoparticles are often referred to as a ultra fine particles and are a contributor to air pollution. So
Sir?
as well as at acid mine drainage sites. So synthesis of nanomaterials are majorly classified into two types. One is the top-down approach and second one is the bottom-up approach. So what is top-down? So top-down approach is nothing but disassembling the structure. So that is, these approaches use larger initial structures which can be externally controlled by the processing the nano structures. Typically, so from this powder, it is making, we are getting for nanoparticles. So here larger scale to smaller to very smaller, so which is falling under the nanoparticle range, which is disassembling the structure is nothing but top-down approach, and atoms which is forming into a cluster and clusters which is forming as a nanoparticles. So assembling the particles which is calling as a bottom-up approach. So just we will see for the examples of one of the example of bottom-up approach is Sol-Gel method. What is meant by a Sol-Gel method? So Sol-Gel process, it involves the evaluation of inorganic networks through the formation of colloidal suspension, which is called as a solution. and gelation of the solution to form a network in a continuous liquid phase, which is called as a gel. So the starting materials used in the preparation of solution are usually inorganic metal salts or organic compound such as metal alkoxides. So we can see for how we can synthesize for colloids of a different precursor. So metal alkoxide point of view, just we are taking the example of tetramethoxylane and tetraethoxylane. So, and also metal chlorides, they are readily react with water, and three reactions are generally used to describe the sol-gel process. One is here, this particular materials we are taking, and just we are seeing for how the hydrolysis process will form and a polycondensation will form. Just we will see in the next slides. Hydrolysis process, these metal oxides, which is reacting with the water, which is forming as a hydrol means, which is forming as a means, just we have taken for tetramethoxylane and tetraethoxylane is the example we are taken. These the example for the hydrolysis process. So which is forming the hydrolysis process point of view, just we can see for these the hydrolysis process. And a polycondensation, this is one just I will show you in later stages what is a hydrolysis and polycondensation process. Just I will show in image format. So these the metal salts we are taken, which is in a blue color, and after adding for other solvents, just it is forming as a these the gel form, and a gel it is heated for 150 degrees centigrade, which is forming as a foam, and afterwards which is further heating, which is showing for these keeping overnight, we are keeping in oven. Afterwards we are keeping in furnace for 250 degrees centigrade to remove the polymers, whatever the polymers which is available, that one to removal point of view we are seeing. So which is forming as a foam type. So that one we can see for these we are calling as a polymeric intermediate material. So just we have discussed what is meant by solution, what is a gel. Just we can see for here we are taken for different precursors of materials. One is a copper ferrite, cobalt ferrite, nickel ferrite. So we can see for a different material point of view, different colors, which is also color also will indicate the which kind of material it belongs to. So copper ferrite, which is showing in a blue color, according to that, these the solution form, and cobalt ferrite, which is in a pink form, and nickel ferrite, which is in a green form. These the gels. Means first we are talking about solution, and it is a final product which is showing in the form of gel, and after keeping in a oven, which is forming as a dried gel, and this dried gel after keeping and heating for a 150 degrees centigrade above, which is forming as a polymeric intermediate material, which is a foam type material. So if you are just porosity to improve them, these are based on any kind of nanomaterials we are preparing. What are the adding agents? So we are to porosity to change for different, taking as a acid and ethylene glycol, urea. So acid we are using means which is giving the high foam of the material, while in the case of ethylene glycol material we are taking means intermediate foam, which is having for porosity is intermediate, and urea you are taking means porosity will be very low. So due to that, Sol gel method is a very useful method. It is a very cheap and low temperature operation. Very thin of metal oxides can be obtained. Better alternative approach comparatively for other techniques like combustion, other techniques. Just we will see for experimental, just I will show for you some techniques. One is a Pechny process, which will fall under the bottom up approach, and also electrospinning method for lead oxide and lithium manganese oxide nanofibers, and nanostructured lithium manganese oxide and lithium cobalt oxide cathode thin films will be prepared by using RF magnetron spectring technique. We will discuss in later slides. So taking as a Pechny process, flowchart preparation of nanocrystalline lithium manganese boroxide powders. The major precursor chemicals are, so we are talking about a sol gel method. Modified one is nothing but the Pechny method. So here we are using lithium manganese boroxide to prepare point of view. What are the major precursor chemicals we are taking? One is lithium nitrate, and another one is manganese acetate, and another one is the boric acid and citric acid and ethylene glycol. So the mixed metal nitrate boric acid solutions of citric acid and ethylene glycol are taken in the ratio of metal ions to citric acid and ethylene glycol in the ratio of 1:1:2 and obtain the clear transparent yellow color solution. Under magnetic stirring at 80 degrees centigrade for 8 hours turns into a viscous brown color solution. The resulting dried resin was further heated at 150 degrees centigrade for 12 hours for the evaporation of unwanted gases and obtained black color. High porous foam like solid mass is called as a polymeric intermediate. The obtained polymeric intermediate of lithium manganese boroxide sample is further calcinated for 650 degrees centigrade for 6 hours to obtain lithium manganese oxide boroxide particles. And similarly, the preparation of lithium magnesium boroxide, instead of manganese acetate tetrahydrate, magnesium nitrate hexahydrate is used as a starting precursor to synthesize lithium magnesium borate. The polymeric intermediate sample was calcinated at 750 degrees centigrade to obtain a lithium magnesium boroxide powder sample. And here it is showing the TGDTA graph of polymeric intermediate of lithium manganese boroxide sample. This is the TG curve and this is the DTA curve. Here it is showing for TG curve, which shows the three main stages of
Participants, I think sir has some technical problem, so he will join. Bijan.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Please.
Yeah. So any particular compound we are preparing means first we need to see for either it is which temperature is suitable to prepare the lithium manganese boroxide or lithium magnesium boroxide sample. Suppose we are taking the example as a lithium metal borate sample. So lithium manganese boroxide sample, which particular temperature this compound is going to form. So which particular temperature it is going to form the compound, that one we are going to cross check with TGDTA graph. So here different stages of weight losses are there. So that is corresponding to whatever the adding agents we are used, and that one which particular temperature it is removed, that one different stages we can able to see for here. And after 500 degrees centigrade, above 500 degrees centigrade, which is not showing for any other changes. So which declares that here it is the forming the compound above 500 degrees centigrade, which confirms which is the compound is forming in lithium manganese boroxide. While in the case of similarly TGDTA graph here 450 above, there is a no weight loss is occurring. Up to that extent, here 0 to 110, which is belongs to the water moisture, and whatever the adding agents, nitrates, which is presence is there up to 300 degrees centigrade, it is there. And afterwards, the major weight loss due to the nitrates and estates, which is removal, is occurring in the stage of 250 to 450 degrees centigrade. Observed above 500 degrees centigrade, which confirms that no further decomposition occurs in the sample after 500 degrees centigrade, which confirms it is formed the lithium magnesium boroxide sample above 500 degrees centigrade. These are the different FTR vibrational modes of lithium manganese boroxide sample, which confirms the we are compared with the literature values with the reported literature values with these values, which is confirms the formation of lithium manganese boroxide sample. And all the observed IR bands positions are in good agreement with the reported literature values. It also confirms the formation of lithium magnesium boroxide samples. And XRD here in this figure shows the polymeric intermediate sample, which is in this figure. First we can see for these the lithium manganese boroxide sample, these the lithium magnesium boroxide sample. So XRD pattern of polymeric intermediate sample of lithium manganese boroxide, and another one is the calcinated at 650 degrees centigrade along with the JSPDS data of lithium manganese boroxide sample. So the polymeric intermediate sample of lithium manganese boroxide sample shows the peaks free X-ray diffraction pattern, which confirms the formation of the amorphous phase. And obtained at 650 degrees centigrade, X-ray diffraction peaks are compared with the JSPDS data file of lithium manganese boroxide sample confirm the formation of pure hexagonal phase of lithium manganese boroxide. And similarly, in this figure shows the sample obtained at 750 degrees centigrade X-ray diffraction peaks are compared with the JSPDS data file of lithium magnesium boroxide sample, confirm the formation of monoclinic phase of lithium magnesium boroxide sample, and the average crystalline size of the lithium manganese boroxide sample is 20 nanometers, and while in the case boroxide sample is the 1949 nanometers. Hence, from the XRD results confirm the formation of nanocrystalline pure hexagonal phase of the lithium manganese boroxide and a nanocrystalline monoclinic phase of the lithium magnesium boroxide. These the any particular battery material point of view, it should have the how much surface area is there, how much is the porosity is there, how much pore size is there. That are the major particular parameters to identify battery, is it suitable for battery material or not. So majority of the so here we can see for porous materials are classified into three types. One is microporous, means less than 2 nanometers. Mesoporous materials, which is fall on the range of pore size in between 2 to 50 nanometers, and microporous materials have pore size in the range of greater than 50 nanometers. So here we are seeing for hexagonal, this slide shows the bed surface area analysis of lithium manganese boroxide and a lithium magnesium boroxide sample. In this figure shows the nitrogen absorption desorption curves of lithium manganese boroxide samples are compared with the IUPAC standard and obtained the sample of lithium manganese boroxide powders are mesoporous material. Similarly, the nitrogen absorption desorption isotherm curves of the lithium magnesium boroxide sample is compared with the IUPAC standard and obtained the lithium manganese boroxide, and also confirms the formation of mesoporous type material, because of here pore size which is falling under 19 nanometers for lithium manganese boroxide sample, which is a mesoporous materials, means what is the particle size? It is 2 to 50 nanometers pore size is there, means which is fall under the mesoporous material. So whatever we have prepared the materials of lithium manganese boroxide and lithium magnesium boroxide samples, both are fall under the region of mesoporous materials. So which is very good for battery materials, because it is having for pore size and high surface area is required, so which is suitable for the cathode materials. And the slide shows the SEM EDAX of lithium manganese boroxide and lithium magnesium boroxide, and SEM image of lithium manganese boroxide sample at 650 degrees centigrade reflects the agglomerated particles. So one particle to another particle, which is separating the molecule. Agglomerated particles shows the formation of irregular spherical shape with the size ranges from 80 nanometers to 120 nanometers. The SEM micrographs of the lithium magnesium boroxide sample at 750 degrees centigrade reflects the agglomerated particles exhibit the sheet-like morphology shape with the particle size ranges from 250 to 400 nanometers. The EDAX spectrums of lithium manganese boroxide and lithium magnesium boroxide sample indicating the existence of manganese and oxygen in the lithium manganese boroxide sample, and oxygen and magnesium elements in the lithium magnesium boroxide sample, and obtained from the energy dispersive X-ray spectrum. These the Now we will see for electrospinning technique is a extension of Sol-Gel method. So just we can see for here. Here we are taken for the precursors of lithium manganese oxide nanofibers point of view. Polyvinyl alcohol we are taken, and lithium nitrate and manganese acetate are the major precursor chemicals, and PVA is the polymer agent, and citric acid and distilled water. Citric acid is the adding agent and distilled water is the solvent. So PVA, polyvinyl alcohol, is adding with the water, and which is heated for 50 degrees centigrade for 1 hour, which is forming the viscous solution. And afterwards, we are adding the lithium nitrate and manganese acetate with citric acid with 30 ml of water, adding the solution ultrasonicated for 15 minutes and adding this solution into the PVA solution, which is forming the PVA, lithium nitrate, manganese acetate, citric acid polymer solution, which is forming a high viscous solution, which is filled in the syringe pump. And we are maintaining these the electrospinning point of view, these the syringe pump, and which is the current collector, which is connected with negative high voltage, and syringe pump point of view, whatever it is a electrode which is connected with positive high voltage, which is forming the electrostatic attraction is happening. Due to that, whatever here, just we can see for further stages, TGDTA graphs of Aspen nanofibers of lead oxide and lithium manganese oxide nanofibers of which particular temperature lead oxide is forming here. We can see clearly for above 300 degrees centigrade, lead oxide is forming. There is a no weight loss is occurring above 300 degrees centigrade, which confirms that here yellow color, which is representing the TG curve, and blue color, which represent the DTA curve. The observed first stage, this is the first stage, which is having for weight loss of 2.60% in the temperature to 110 degrees centigrade of the TG curve, corresponds to the removal of absorbed moisture in dried polymeric intermediate, and the corresponding broad endothermic peak up in the DTA curve. Observed second stage weight loss of 22.40% in the temperature range of 100 to 2 degrees centigrade is maybe due to the decomposition of whatever the nitrates and PVA main chains existing in the Aspen sample, and the corresponding broad exothermic peak is observed in the DTA curve. There is a no weight loss is observed in the TG curve in the measured temperature range of 260 to 600 degrees centigrade, which indicates the complete decomposition of organic derivatives from the Aspen sample to form the beta phase oxide. Similar to the lithium manganese oxide nanofiber sample, we can see. And all the observed IR bands positions of lead oxide and lithium manganese oxide nanofibers are in good agreement with the reported literature values. It confirms the formation of lead oxide and lithium manganese oxide nanofibers. And from XRD patterns of Aspen nanofiber samples showed the peaks free XRD pattern, confirm the formation of amorphous phase, and obtained at 400 degrees centigrade sample showed the diffraction peaks are compared with the JSPDS data file of beta PBO, which confirm the formation of phase pure orthorhombic crystal structure. Similarly, the sample obtained at 600 degrees centigrade X-ray diffraction patterns are compared with the JSPDS data of lithium manganese oxide confirm the formation of pure cubic spinel phase of lithium manganese oxide nanofibers. The average crystallized size of the lead oxide nanofibers is 68 nanometers and lithium manganese oxide nanofibers 20 nanometers respectively by using XRD patterns and by the Scherrer formula. This is the Scherrer formula and these the parameters we are using. So the Scherrer formula, and it was found 68 and 20 nanometers respectively. Hence, from the XRD results confirm the formation of nanocrystalline pure orthorhombic phase of lead oxide nanofibers and nanocrystalline cubic spinel phase of the lithium manganese oxide nanofibers. And these the nitrogen absorption and desorption curves of lead oxide fibers sample with the IUPAC standard nanometers and lithium manganese oxide fibers pore size is 10 nanometers, which is both are falling under the region of 2 nanometers to 50 nanometers. So these the IUPAC standard patterns. So which is falling under 2 nanometers to 15 nanometers. So lead oxide and lithium manganese oxide nanofibers are respectively confirms the which is a mesoporous type material, and lead oxide nanofibers is having the bed surface area of 51.23 meter square per gram, and lithium manganese oxide nanofibers having the high surface area 98 meter square per gram and pore volume in the range of 0.26693 centimeter per gram and 0.2610 per gram respectively. Here, the semi-images of the fiber diameters are found to be 250 to 550 nanometers and 85 to 300 nanometers respectively for the Aspen nanofibers and 400 degrees centigrade. The EDAX spectrum of the lead oxide nanofiber sample indicating the existence of lead and oxygen elements in the lead oxide compound, and the inset set table shows the atomic and weight percentages of lead and oxygen of lead oxide obtained from the energy dispersive X-ray spectrum. The semi-images of the fiber diameter are found to be 250 to 600 nanometers for Aspen nanofibers and 200 to 300 nanometers for 600 degrees centigrade calcinated lithium manganese oxide nanofibers. Figure shows the EDAX spectrum of lithium manganese oxide nanofiber sample indicating the existence of manganese and oxygen elements in the lithium manganese oxide compound, and the inset table shows the atomic and weight percentages of each elements of manganese and oxygen of lithium manganese oxide nanofibers obtained from the energy dispersive X-ray spectrum. These are the AFM morphologies of two-dimensional Aspen nanofibers and calcinated for 400 degrees centigrade. And these are three-dimensional AFM images of Aspen and calcinated at 400 degrees centigrade of lead oxide, and these are the two-dimensional and three-dimensional of Aspen and calcinated for lithium manganese oxide nanofibers. AFM studies revealed that the fiber diameter decreases with the increase of calcination temperature. Here we can see calcination, which is here fiber diameter is 252. Here we can see clearly. This is the fiber diameter which is having for Aspen nanofibers 200 to 550, and while in the case of calcinated sample which is having for 85 to 300 nanometers. So here AFM also you can see for two-dimensional morphology, and this is the three-dimensional morphology. So two-dimensional point of view, with the increase of temperature, what it is happening, the fiber diameter is decreasing, because whatever the adding agents are there for organic solvents, which is increasing the temperature, organic solvents are removed, due to that fiber diameter are decreasing. Similarly, in the case of lithium manganese oxide nanofibers also, with the increase of temperature, fiber diameter decreases. Here, the roughness parameters of lead oxide and lithium manganese oxide fiber sample of average roughness and RMS roughness values are depicted in this table. It is found that with the increase of calcination temperature, the roughness parameters increases. The roughness parameters are decreased. Here, Aspen nanofiber sample, it is showing for the average roughness is 25.6, while in the case of 400 degrees centigrade calcinated 10 nanometers. RMS roughness Aspen nanofiber sample 32.3 nanometers, while in the case of calcinated nanofiber sample 15 nanometers. So the average roughness and RMS roughness decreases with the increase of temperature. Similarly, the lithium manganese oxide nanofiber sample. These the TEM images showed the formation of one-dimensional beta PBO nanofibers with the diameter 230 nanometers. Just we can see for here diameter which is falling under 230 nanometers, which is a good agreement with the SEM image and AFM result. The inset figure shows the beta PBO nanofibers. Results confirm the formation of polycrystalline nature. From the HR-TEM image of the interplanar, observed the interplanar lattice spacing of 311 plane is found to be 0.306 nanometers, which consistent with the orthorhombic phase of JSPDS data. Similarly, the TEM images of lithium manganese oxide nanofibers. And this is the RF magnetron and DC magnetron 5-target magnetron sputtering system. Here, which is useful for a DC magnetron sputtering, and this is the 5-target point of view. 5 switches are there. So which source, that one we can able to see here clearly. These are first target, second target, third, fourth, and fifth. So these backside it is there. So these the 5-target magnetron system, which we can operate in manually for these the RF sputtering, and these the DC magnetron sputtering. Here we can see for, we have taken for lithium cobalt oxide and lithium manganese oxide sample for lithium targets by using the, just we can see the conditions. Lithium cobalt oxide, we have taken the target diameter is 2-inch dia and 4 mm thickness. While in the case of similarly lithium manganese oxide also same target. Substrate to target distance is 15 centimeter, and base pressure, working pressure, substrate temperature is room temperature, and RF power is fixed for lithium cobalt oxide and lithium manganese oxide 100 watts, and processing gas is argon, and duration of deposition is 180 minutes, and substrate rotation is 60 rpm, and thin film thickness of target is 100 nanometers. And we have calcinated for different annealing temperature 400, 500, 600 degrees centigrade for lithium cobalt oxide, and 300, 400, 500 degrees centigrade for lithium manganese oxide. So here we can see all the deposited thin films by using this RFDC magnetron sputtering system. We have deposited these films. We can see for these the aluminum foil coated film. These the silicon 100 orientation growth silicon. So as deposited means these the room temperature deposited films. If we are further increasing the calcination temperature, so here color patterns also changing. So what it means? Color is changing is nothing but here also similarly lithium manganese oxide nanofibers as deposited means room temperature without applying any temperature. With the increase of temperature, it is showing for blue color, yellowish, greenish color, and thick blue and a reddish color. Different colors is occurring. So what it represents? These the lithium titanium oxide point of view, different temperature point of view, how the color is changing also we can see how we can distinguish that difference means by using this one. So here the particle diameters we can see clearly here. As deposited, particle size is very less. While in the case of, and here AFM morphologies of 2-dimensional and 3-dimensionals of as deposited and 300, 400, 500 degrees centigrade of lithium manganese oxide thin films respectively. AFM images clearly shows that grain size is increases with the annealing temperature. So grain size is differing and also colors also changing. So here 3-dimensional you can see grain size is small for as deposited. With the increase of temperature, grain size is increasing with the increase of temperature. And also with the increase of temperature, the roughness of the value also increased. Average roughness, RMS roughness, and AFM grain size also we can able to see for increases. While in the case of AFM images of lithium cobalt oxide thin film, similarly the 2-dimensional and 3-dimensional AFM images of as deposited and 400, 500, 600 centigrade of lithium cobalt oxide thin films. AFM images clearly shows that the grain size increases and the roughness parameters increases with the increase of annealing temperatures. And this is the fabrication unit for 2032 lithium battery fabrication, which is we are molder we are taking, and with the positive active material, conductive dilute and polymer binder with the solvent, we are making the slurry mixing, and these the coating on the aluminum foil, and these the drying means after coating, these the drying, and afterwards whatever we are coated, we are cutting with different sizes according to the CR2032 means 10 centimeters we have taken, and again we are pressing to avoid the wrinkles, and we have made these the positive electrode, and afterwards a nano composite polymer and polymer blend electrolyte, and these the negative electrode materials which is coated on the copper foil, and positive electrode which is coated on the aluminum foil, and these the glove box which is operated in the inside the glove box which is maintained inside atmosphere to avoid the moisture, and fabricated the CR2032 lithium-ion battery. And this is the assembling of cell components inside glove boxes. These are the CR2032 cell. These the negative electrode, and these the separator, and these the electrolyte we are using for, and a positive electrode we are taking. Then we are assembling the open circuit OCV for fabricated 2032, and these the Swatch-Lack type of coin cells, which is here we are showing here different types. So Swatch-Lack and coin cells. Thank you for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your elaborate lecture. Participants, if you have any doubt, you can type in the chat window. Or you can mute and talk also if you are interested. There is no worries yet. Participants, if you have any query, you can. I think there is no queries, sir, as of now. Thank you, sir.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
I think thank you, Bornal ma'am. I think they are just complimenting. Since it's about to lunchtime, I think they are very busy. Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you for the wonderful presentation, sir. I think we had a good experience on the full-fledged nano-based lithium-ion battery manufacturing. Thanks for your wonderful session, sir. Thank you. So I think Dr. Vinod will get back to you, sir.
Sure, sir.
Yes,
Sir,
sir.
can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir. So thank you, Dr.
Thank you,
Alvesar, sir, for your presentation in cathode materials for lithium-ion batteries. So it will be useful for our participants who are working in the cathode area. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. Thank you all participants. You can join for the validatory section, but about 2:10. I think it's already late. So we will start by 2:10 or 2:15. It is just 15 minutes program, and we will have some oral feedback, and we will go for the test session. Thank you. Thank you all. Please join by 2:10. Thank you.